Hey guys, Gibbo here, and in today's video I'm going to show you how to take an average photo that you took on your phone, specifically your iPhone, and make it pop by turning it into black and white on your phone. Let's jump in. So I took this shot specifically for this video. I used a very wide angle lens, so there's a lot of information in the photo, but what I did is I specifically aimed the camera slightly up because I wanted to get a lot more of the sky. This photo will go from to there we go. Awesome. Okay, so let's jump in and see how I would edit this photo. So I've opened up this photo in my camera roll on my phone. I'm going to click on edit at the top right, and you can see your adjustment tools are running along the bottom. If you can't see them, if you push the little clock dial at the bottom left, you'll select that will bring up all your adjustment tools. So first thing we want to do is, because I want to make this black and white, I'm going to scroll across to the saturation tab, and I'm going to reduce the saturation right down to -100. What that does is it pulls out all the color, and now you are just working with a grayscale photo. And the benefit of that is that you don't have to worry about colors looking a bit off or muddy or oversaturated or anything like that. If we scroll right back to the beginning, I'm going to select my exposure first. So currently the photo, as I said, is in black and white, but it's lacking a little bit of contrast, it's lacking a little bit of brightness, a little bit of pop. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust the exposure just slightly, just bring up some of the lights. We can always go back and change these afterwards, but this is how I'm starting off. I'm going to go to the exposure, I'm going to pump it up to about 20, just bring a little bit more light into the shadows and a little bit into the overall scene. Next, we're going to go to brilliance. Now what brilliance does is, if you adjust brilliance, it reduces the whites in the highlight and it brings up the darks out of the shadows. So it's trying to help you retain information in your photo. Unlike exposure, if you crank exposure up all the way, as I've done here, to 100, the sky's completely blown out. Watch now, when I adjust brilliance, it's going to bring some of the highlights down in the clouds, so you're getting a little bit more definition in the clouds, and it's also going to lift some of the shadows and the dark areas in the grass and the trees in the background. So I'm going to leave that at about 60. Now to specifically work on our highlights. Now I want to bring the highlights down a little bit because I want to get more detail in the sky. So I'm bringing the highlights down. You can see if I adjust it, it goes a little bit grayer in the sky, but that's fine because when we add a little bit of definition, a little bit of contrast, that definition that we've introduced will just make those clouds look a little bit more defined and a little bit more interesting to look at. Next is shadows. So I'm going to pump the shadows up quite a bit to about 60, 70. And what that's doing, it isn't adjusting the highlights in the clouds, but it's literally lifting, again, the darks in the shadow. It's bringing more detail out of the shadow areas and the dark areas in the photo. Next, we're going to up the contrast because we want to make the brights a little brighter, the darks a little bit more edgy. So if you can see, if I bring the contrast up, it's going to just make everything a little bit more edgy. So I'm going to add that to about 30. Okay, so I'm not going to adjust anything with brightness because brightness is just an overall adjustment of the photo. I don't want to adjust anything more with the brightness. So I'm going to skip brightness and I'm going to go straight to the black point editing tool. If you guys are familiar with Lightroom or Photoshop and you understand how a histogram works, the black point is specifically talking about the very left hand side of a histogram, which is where your blacks and your very dark areas are. All you've got to know at this point is that your black point is specifically targeting dark areas in your photo. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring down the dark areas. I'm going to add more black to the dark areas. All that's doing is it's adding a little bit more darks to the shadows just to give a little bit more contrast and a little bit more oomph to the shadows of the photo. Definition is where we're going to add some definition. It's going to give it a little bit more definition to edges, a little bit more definition to structures in the photo. So if you can see, I'm going to add some, it's going to bring some more definition into the clouds. Look at that, there's some clouds definition happening there. Okay, so the last thing we're going to adjust is the vignette tool. I like using vignettes a lot in my photography because it allows me to control where the eye falls on the photo. So right now, if we look back on our screen, there's a lot of sky in the shot which is quite dominant. But if I add some vignette, you can see the top left, top right, the corners have got a little bit of a darker shading coming in on the top left, top right, and also the bottom left and the bottom right. What that allows now is your eye to be drawn into the photo specifically into the middle, you see the sun, and then you see the kids playing at the bottom of the picture. So guys, that's how I adjust this photo. If I click back to where we started, it's not great, but a little bit of adjusting, making it into black and white, playing with your highlights, your shadows, your black points, vignetting, it just makes the photo look a little bit more interesting, a little bit more appealing. So that's how I would adjust this photo. I hope you like this video, guys. If you have any comments, leave them in the comment section below, and we'll see you in the next video. Have a good one.